Hey y'all, Coach in the Fire, and in today's video, we're talking about the pre-dawn light. Now, you've heard us mention dawn several times in this channel. This is something new to us this year. Not too long ago, we learned that when we rise at dawn and elevate our spirit, it helps us to make that connection that is necessary for us throughout the day. If we miss that time, or if we find ourselves complaining during that time, it's pretty much going to ruin our day. And so we're looking here in the Third Testament of the Bible, where it's mentioned, the word dawn is mentioned 20 times in this Third Testament. But we were looking especially for the word when it relates to dawn, and there's actually only one verse, and so we're going to talk about that verse. It is here in teaching 38, the 3 divine revelations and the 7 seals. Yeah, this is a great chapter when it comes to revelations and stuff, because like I said, the 7 seals is broken down in this chapter. But you also understand why we have a Third Testament in the first place. So you'll want to get this chapter. You can get it in many places. You're on YouTube probably. You can go to YouTube and get the audio book. Just put in Third Testament chapter 38. You can hear the audio book of this chapter. Or you can go to where I'm looking at it at jesus-comes.com. Or you can go to other places. You can even buy a copy over at your favorite online store. But anyway, so again, we're here in chapter 38. Let's start all the way up here in verse 60. It says, "The law of God, his divine word given through Christ, and all the messages of the prophets, envoys, and emissaries were the seed that maintained the faith of humanity in a divine promise that has always proclaimed light, salvation, and justice for all men." Talking about the law of God. That's extremely important here in these times, because that's going to be the divider between our Father's people. You know, those who are found on the good side of things and those who are found on the bad side of things will be determined by their understanding and obedience to the law. But anyway, let's go on. This is the time awaited for the great revelation, that through which you will understand that all I have shown you throughout the times, and so that you will know who your Father is, who you are, and the reason for your existence. And that's important. Hopefully you're finding out some of that information as you peruse the over 1,500 videos on our channel. Praise our Father in heaven, hallowed be his name, Yahweh. But what you're hearing is the sharing of this revelation. You read over in the book of Daniel that it's promised that we will get wiser, or understanding will increase in these end times. And so that's what you're having, that's what you're hearing. But anyway, let's go on. 62 says, "This is the time in which, for the spiritual evolution you have achieved, the trials you have passed through, and the experience you have gathered, you may receive in your spirit that which comes from my spirit, the light of wisdom reserved in my arcane, in wait for your preparation. Still, humanity, having reached the grade of evolution necessary to receive my message, I have sent you the first ray of my light, that which has made the rude and simple men who serve as my spokesman speak in ecstasy through my inspiration." So, giving our Father in heaven, Yahweh, all praise and honor You see why we must do so. Because like he says there, may the rude and simple men who serve as my spokesman speak in ecstasy through my inspiration. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, obedience to the law. But notice here what it's saying, at the result of it. It ain't necessarily the person, like the Father says, he has no respect of person. But he says, this is the time in which for the spiritual evolution you have achieved. So that's talking about reincarnation and how we've had to evolve spiritually over the different times that we've had the chance to come down here to earth. Then it says the trials you have passed through, and that could very well be talking about what we're experienced here in this existence, in this third dimension, all of the things that we've gone through. I heard a comedian say earlier today, he says, talking to the younger generation who is experiencing much of their life on the internet, he says, you guys would have to Google many of the things that we had to live through. Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was funny. He says, and the experience you have gathered, you may receive in your spirit that which comes from my spirit. And so that is what you have. These people have gone through a lot, and so they are receiving a lot. When they say much is expected, much is given. If I can say that backwards. But notice this part where he says, that which comes from my spirit, the light of wisdom reserved in my arcane, in wait for your preparation, which goes back to Daniel 12 when it says the knowledge will increase in this time. It's saying in his time, knowledge will increase in his time, not necessarily in our time and when we're ready, but when he's ready, then the knowledge is increasing as we see. But anyway, let's go on to 63. This ray of light has been only of preparation. It is like the pre-dawn light that announces the new day. Later, my light shall come to you fully, illuminating your existence and dispelling even the last shadows of ignorance, sin, and misery. All right, so let's look at verse 64. It says, this era, whose dawn you admire in the infinite, is the sixth stage initiated in the spiritual life of humanity. An era of light, of revelations, of fulfillment of the ancient prophecies and forgotten promises. It is the sixth seal, upon its unleashing, overflowing with its content of wisdom, your spirit, in a message full of justice, clarification, and revelations. This wisdom is being unleashed on our spirit. This is because we're in this sixth seal. Again, this is the dawn of what is to come. So we're just getting a taste of it. Now, again, we wanted to get in about this pre-dawn light, but this, just like all of the other verses in the Third Testament, which mentions the word dawn, is talking about the dawn of the new era. And what this is saying is that the time that we are about to go into, this new era, will be a huge difference, a huge transition, very different from what we are used to. And what he's saying is this period that we're in now, this sixth seal, no doubt, is actually the pre-dawn of that, where we're actually having the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, that comforting spirit that we were promised. We're in that time where we are able to take advantage of that. But this is only the dawn, the pre-dawn, the pre-light of what is to come. And you say, so how does that relate to our daily dawn, which is what we really want to talk about here. What I'm gathering out of it is, what does it say here? The pre-dawn light. And so, I have to go back to my old astronomy class and try to remember what they taught us about the dawn. But from what I understand, dawn itself is light. Once you have dawn, there is light in the sky. But now he's talking about that light that comes before the dawn. And that's what I'm going to have to get educated on, because that is the time that we are supposed to be doing our prayer, when we're supposed to be elevating our spirits to Him on a daily basis. At least saying the Lord's Prayer and then going forward and praying, he says for 5 minutes is what He expects during that time daily. And so we're talking about a very specific time. But again, I'm going to have to study, how many minutes are we talking about in that time. But we may have to figure that all out in another video. Hold up. In editing, I found another verse, at least one more verse, as I was attempting to put up all of the verses that talk about dawn from the Third Testament. Here's another one from chapter 25, which is about nature. So let's look at it. Let's start down here in a section called the presence of God in nature. Verse 5 says, "Seek my presence in the works carried out by me, and at every step you will find me. Try to hear me, and you will hear me in the potent voice that arises from all created. For I find no difficulty in manifesting myself through the beings of creation." Now, this is deep, because he's saying that He talks through creation, the potent voice that rises from all created. He has no problem doing that, he's saying, if we seek His presence in all the works that He's carried out. All right. That's why we go out in nature to meditate from time to time. But verse 6 says, "I manifest myself in a star, or in the fury of a storm, as much as in the sweet light of the dawn. I make my voice heard in the melodious song of the bird, just as I express it in the aroma of flowers. In every expression of mine, each phrase, each work speaks to you of love, of the fulfillment of my laws of justice and wisdom, and of the eternity of the Spirit." So, in many ways, like he said, He is in everything that He has created. And so what we're learning from this verse is that He speaks to us through all that He has created. And if we pay attention to that, we can hear His voice. But one thing we're focusing in on here in this video, it says, "as much as in the sweet light of the dawn." He says, "I manifest myself in a star," which is also interesting. We've been studying star alignments here in some videos lately, so that's interesting, but we'll have to come back to that. We're interested in the dawn here, and he says that He also manifests Himself in the sweet light of the dawn. And so if we're putting this together, then it is at that dawn when we are elevating our spirits, He is actually manifesting Himself in there with us. So that's adding more importance to that. I wish I had the vocabulary to express how important that is. But anyway, let me go ahead and close this video out. If you got anything out of it, go ahead and hit the like button. But if you didn't, hit the dislike button. Either way, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you down there. Shalom.